Imagine it's November 2024, and Ryan Day's record at Ohio State is now 67-8. The game between Michigan and Ohio State is about to kick off. 3 hours later, only one of them is a winner.
Dun dun dun.
If it's not Sharon Moore, he shakes it off and prepares for the next game. If Ryan Day loses, will it send shockwaves throughout the world of college football? Welcome to the Big Ten Team Rivalry Show, where we cover the Big Ten from a Michigan perspective with expert trash talk and unrivaled analysis. My name is Cliff. His name is Mac. Let's get into it. As you know, Ohio State has lost to Michigan the last 3 years in a row. Never get tired of saying that. Now, don't get all in a lather, Ohio State fans. We are well aware that Ohio State has controlled this rivalry for a couple of decades, but that doesn't change the fact that Michigan has controlled it for the last 3 years running. Combined with 3 Big Ten championships and now a national championship, never get tired of saying that either. We've all speculated, tongue in cheek, on what this means for Ryan Day and whether or not he's in the hot seat, but now you've got Josh Pate talking about it too. Pate said on his show, well, number one, it would be a disaster in Ohio State. It would be a disaster, Pate said, if they lose to Michigan. There's this weird thing in college football that's both beautiful and terrifying, and that is the impact and the weight of rivalry games. And it's on bigger display than this game right here. This game is its own season. Michigan, Ohio State, Michigan. The game is its own season. I love that, but it's a nightmare if you lose it. The big question, Mac, what does this mean for Michigan if Sharon Moore can beat Ohio State in his first year as head coach?
It would mean that Michigan has truly found a formula for winning championship football at the national level, and it can be repeated across coaching administrations. I mean, if Michigan wins, then they might set Ohio State back for like a solid 3 to 5 years while they rebuild. They got to find a new coach. They got to hope it's the right coach. It's not Lincoln Riley. Don't play that game. If Michigan loses, though, it's not that big of a deal. Because honestly, outside of Ann Arbor, expectations really aren't that high for Michigan this year. Inside Ann Arbor, however, I mean, they fully believe that they can repeat as national champions. And I honestly think they have really good reasons for why they believe that, especially on defense. But if Michigan wins, then I fully expect Michigan to be in the national title conversation every single year under Sharon Moore. It will give Michigan staying power. I think that's the right term. Meaning recruits will look at Michigan as a program that wasn't just a flash in the pan thanks to Harbaugh. It's more sustainable than that now. Now, if Michigan loses, it's not like that narrative will be completely thrown out. It's kind of one of those situations where taking an L would suck, but at worst, it would have a neutral effect on the future of the program just because of the situation, turnover, new coach, etc. But it wouldn't be like at Ohio State where there's honestly a very real chance that the horseshoe wouldn't exist the next morning.
Okay, now I hadn't heard about this Lincoln Riley thing. Is that something going around on X?
No, I'm just saying.
You're
I
just
had a
saying.
feeling and I needed to address that. Don't do it, guys. Don't do
So Josh Pate has also said many times that Ryan Danger is Ryan Danger.
it. All right.
Yeah, he is not in danger of losing his job. He's 56-8 after all. But according to Pate, that changes if he loses to Michigan a fourth time. He said on his show, if they lose four in a row for Ohio State, it would be a pretty unprecedented conversation happening around Ryan Day. There would be logic and then applying it to an illogical situation. And if Ohio State loses to Michigan, I don't care what they did elsewhere in the season, it will be an illogical conversation for Ryan Day from that point out. I can't imagine it myself. But Mac, does 0-4 actually mean the end of Ryan Day, or is this just a Michigan fan's pipe dream?
I think it does. I think it means the end of Ryan Day. And I've gone on record saying numerous times that I think that this is ridiculous. And I can't believe that I'm doing this as a Michigan fan, but he's 56-8. 56-8. How do you fire a coach with that kind of record in today's college football game? But I mean, it's like Josh Pate said. Rivalry games are a beautiful and terrifying thing. They're awesome because of how much pressure there is to win the games, but it also makes people say some crazy things. I should know. I said them every single time Harbaugh lost to Ohio State. I said after 2018, I posted a Snapchat. It was a picture of me doing this, and the caption read, "Bye Harbaugh." So yeah, I mean, it makes people say crazy things. I mean, like how a coach that has single digit losses entering his sixth year as the head coach is on the hot seat. That's insane.
I think I want to go back and amend my question too a little bit because I put in there would the end of Ryan Day be a Michigan fan's pipe dream? But at the same time, by the same token, if Ryan Day loses to Michigan 4 years in a row, it doesn't seem like he's even a threat anymore. But there's like what Pate is just saying, logic and illogic. You can't really say that because, like you just said, he's 56-8. Plus, he would be 11-0 going into the Michigan game. So yes, he's a threat. But if he's lost 4 years in a row, is he a threat? But he is a threat. But he doesn't seem like a threat. So what's the dream here? I don't know.
That's what Ohio State fans said for the longest time was, please give Harbaugh a lifetime contract because he
Right.
could never beat him, and then he beat him 3 times in a row. So I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, because Michigan hadn't been a threat since what, 2008?
7. Let's
Seven.
say 7 and forget 2008 ever happened.
All right.
Okay.
Well, okay. So Pate goes on to say that, every year the last three, Ohio State has been favored going into the Michigan game. And Pate said about that, well, how outside of Michigan, pretty much everyone would be in agreement that if you look on paper, this should be Ohio State's year. Buckeyes got it to get it this year, he said. Yeah, but there's this thing. It's it's looked that way on paper the last few years, and they haven't. They haven't beaten Michigan. So there's a reason they've never played that game on paper. And we always talk about this. We talk about the stats. We talk about going into that game, what all of the wins and the stats mean, and essentially they mean nothing when those cleats hit the turf. But would you say it's likely Ohio State will be favored going into this game this year, going into the game this year?
Yeah, I mean they're already favored by 10 right now. I think it is maybe 9.5. I can't remember. And yeah, they'll probably be favored going into the game unless something crazy happens. Like they have 2 losses coming into the game, but at that point, I mean, Ryan Day has to beat Michigan and then potentially maybe make a run in the playoffs if he wants to keep his job. I think everyone in Columbus is fully expecting a national title this year. And I think it would be obvious to say that 2 losses before the Michigan game would essentially seal his fate. And there's really nothing he could do at that point. Because at that point, you know, you're at the point where not only is he losing to Michigan regularly, but now he's starting to lose to other teams too. And I understand this is all just kind of a thought exercise.
Mhm.
I mean, and again, this is with the best roster in Ohio State history, according to Urban Meyer, too. So,
Right.
if anything crazy happens, then for whatever reason, I mean, he is walking on the thinnest ice that a coach with a 56-8 record has ever walked on.
Mhm.
It's wild. But again, I don't expect them to have 2 losses coming in the Michigan game. I think Ohio State will go in favored. But if Michigan is undefeated or maybe even only has 1 loss, then maybe it's a single digit line. I don't know. But Ohio State will be favored.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, well, I know you're right that would be unprecedented for Ohio State to go into the game with two losses. I mean, I can't even remember the last time that happened. I mean, it's been a long time.
I don't
I mean,
really.
2011 notwithstanding, because that was an interim year,
Yeah.
but other than that, but also, yeah, I forgot too that Jim Tressel and Urban Meyer have both put the pressure on Ryan Day now because saying that he's got the best team that Ohio State's ever had. So
Hmm.
you can understand why the conversation is if Ryan Day doesn't win it all this year, something's wrong and something's got to change.
Everybody's saying Ohio State has the best roster in the country. And
Hmm.
I think they do. I think they're right. I think from a talent standpoint, they're absolutely right. I think that I've maintained that the game is won in the trenches, And for me right now, just from a talent standpoint, I still think Michigan has the edge, and maybe one or two other teams have an edge over Ohio State, because Ohio State really hasn't done a whole lot to address the trench problem, their O-line problem, which honestly wasn't even really that much of a problem. It's just that it wasn't as good as like Michigan's D line.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, they absolutely do have the best roster in the nation. And if Ryan Day can't win something meaningful with that, then they're going to lose their crap in Columbus. And it'll be kind of funny, but for some reason, even as a Michigan fan, I'm over here like, don't fire him. Don't fire him, because he's a smart guy. He'll figure it out eventually. I understand it might take a little while, maybe even longer than you want, but the guy has come closer to winning a national championship than he has to beating Michigan. At some point, he's gonna figure it out. You know, don't fire him, but they're going to. If he loses to Michigan, they're going to anyway, because that's everybody thinks with not their brains when you lose to a rival.
On that note, thanks for watching. Let us know what you think by leaving a comment below. If you want more college football stories like this, give the show a like. And while you're there, slide a little bit to the left and give us a subscribe. We are on the road to 1,000 subs, and we'd love it if you'd help us get there. You can also watch us live on the Big Ten Team Rivalry Show Monday nights at 8 p.m. right here on YouTube. Mac, take us out.
This is the Big Ten Team Rivalry Show.
Michigan has controlled the rivalry for the last only one of Michigan or Ohio State can be the winner. If it's not Sharon Moore.
Oh crap. All right, I'm sorry. I thought you were going to pause for longer.
I will now.
Okay, yeah, do that.
This is a recording.
I think that was great.